right, guys, we got another attachment point news roundtable. I got Terrance Harvey on today. One of the nicest, most positive guys, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, who's really supporting our industry. So, thanks for the positive vibes and the mind share. Terrance, how you doing today?
I'm all right, man. How are you, man?
Doing good, doing good. And before we started rolling, Terrance was talking about how he knows his industry, knows his job super well. 20 years, the business looks like CPCU. But he was, looking at the tech and looking at Twitter and like all the different things happen. Then I come at it from the other side, applied to 60 jobs at one point, got like a personalized role, networking commercial, applied to 70 jobs at another point, got like an assistant to assistant role, decided to kind of go out on my own. And I started with InsurTech because the traditional guys kind of weren't having me and weren't opening doors. And then you started in the traditional side, and then you're like, what's going on out there? It seems like they're doing some interesting work. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, dude, thanks for being in conversation and being open to hop on today.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. It's just grateful to have the opportunity to actually speak. I must be doing something right when I could get on Insurance Nerds podcast. That's really cool.
No, it's fun. I love that it's like community curated, genuine content. It's so rare that like people would have day jobs that they would like spend their hobby time building content around. There's something
Right.
very interesting about the insurance industry. I still can't put my finger on it, but I appreciate being a part of it. Yeah. So how'd you get in the first place? There's always a story. Like no one's ever like, I meant to get an insurance unless you're like inheriting a farmer's agency or something.
You
Yeah.
know what's crazy is I didn't even pay attention to insurance. Around 19, I had two jobs. One of the jobs I worked at was a little pie company. I was like an assistant manager, teenage clerk at the time. And I featured in a New York Magazine, 1998. I was kind of cool as a kid. And I was trying to transition. I said, I got my diploma. I wasn't looking at college right then and there. I was like, you know what? I'll try. And like you, I, went in the back of the paper and just started office jobs. And the few that I went to, they didn't respond. And my friend had an opportunity at this insurance company as a file clerk. And I was like, sure. And I came into the business at the time as a file clerk, 2001, October 1st. So you can imagine, 2 weeks prior, the whole world,
Oh
on
wow.
September
Yeah.
11th, it was real, interesting. I worked right on 34th Street in Manhattan, 2 Park Avenue. And I just took the opportunity as a file clerk and said, hey, this is not the bakery. So this is just a whole new world to explore. And I'm just going to see, where this world takes me. 20 years later, I'm still here in 2021.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I saw a lot of underwriting experience at CPCU, which is no joke. Looked like you grabbed that degree later too, which is really cool. And kind of what kept you with the insurance industry? Like file clerk, like what got you hooked? When was that?
Um, so, the file clerks, I was really, anything I do, I kind of try to master or make it fun. I was young, so a lot of the stuff was, I wanted to make it fun. So to make it fun, I would, put little goals and things to do. I had a great memorization was like my thing. So with the files, I would memorize the doctors, memorize which underwriter worked with the doctors. If you said the first name, I'll know the last name. If you said the last name, I'll know the first name. And that kind of got me because I was very, efficient and fast. So they'll say Jones. Oh yeah, Dr. Jones. Yeah, he was working on him last week. Da, da, da. I'll pull it. And with that, and again, it was like everybody was really older than me. So I was like a little kid there at 19. So everybody became like my parent,
Cool.
my
Yeah.
big brother,
Yeah.
my I had so many mothers in my career. I had about 10 mothers.
That's
And,
cool.
I've learned a lot from these people. And every now and then I would ask another question. I use this at the reinsurance symposium. There was a movie Damon Wayans did called Mo Money, and he would be going through the office with the file card, and he'll be delivering the mail. And I kind of had the same energy. And with that energy, I started asking questions as I go through the card. Hey, what do you do? What is this? What is an underwriter? Like, what does that entail? And one of the biggest things that kind of got me going was that charisma. At the time, there was an solvent company, and all of their claims were liquidated by the state. Don't ask me how. I was able in 2 years to get all of the claims, all of the claims. So if somebody sent in a claims request, we would say, companies insolvent in liquidation, we can't basically give an adequate quote because we can't get the claims. I was able to go to the state and get the claims. Don't ask how. I was speaking to someone and they actually let me in the building, and I received a stack of claims from the state to actually use to, apply to the insureds we had at the time. So my company is the insured of last resort. So companies that they cherry pick the business, and if they don't want these doctors, they will go to this state guaranteed fund, which is my company, and we will just have them at roughly 3.5 times higher the premium. So at the time, being a file clerk, working into like the assistant underwriting role, one of my first big things was getting those claims histories. Now the doctors didn't like it. The doctors that were still there, that or came with us, and it said, hey, those 5 claims that you had at that company, we got the claims, and now you're gonna have a surcharge. They kind of hated that, but I think I saved about 35 million in premium by obtaining this information. And with that, kind of started my career. I was like, oh wow, this is kind of cool. And I just kept asking questions, and the more questions I asked, they kind of spoon fed me until I took the lead, to learn more.
Yeah, that's cool. And that positivity is so huge. I kind of realized that being around something that can be as tough, dry, stressful as insurance, I realized just sort of being upbeat is kind of a value add, honest. No, that's super interesting. And then the memorization, I know you got a little bit of music in your background. I wonder if that kind of helped you out
Yes.
with kind of,
Yes.
lock things up. You can't be flowing if you don't know what you're saying,
Yes, that's, I mean, I wasn't, it's funny because actually when I did record, for whatever reason, I like to read it off,
oh, wow.
even
Okay.
if I knew it.
Yeah.
But when it came to like studying in school, I would memorize it and kind of in my brain. I remember when I was going for my first degree, my 2-year degree, I would literally, so the history teacher would say, hey, these are the 3 topics. You can write the essay to get an idea of the essay. So when you come in, you can write the essay after you do the terms and, the questions. I would go around the office. I would take the keywords, memorize them. I would take the essay, memorize it. Just by, just repetitive, just reading it over, finding ways to say it, and, word for word, I would go into the exam, and 10, 15 minutes later, I'll be out the door with it perfectly, written essay, broken down. And I challenged myself years later doing the CPCU to see if I could do the same thing. And the same thing applied. So it was kind of cool. I tell people, even with the music and how I approach myself online, I'm very open. So that's what helped me on the music side of things, and that's what's helping me on the insurance side of things now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I don't know. We all have different like tricks and strengths, and it's fun to bring it to like our industry. For me, I kind of mentioned it actually in our our message on Twitter. Like I was diagnosed like ADD and dyslexia. I think people have different skill sets and strengths, and I'm really good with abstract reasoning. Like I can conceptually grab something that I've never seen before, think of something else that might be similar, break down how that works, bring the logic over, then put it together here. It's random, it doesn't it's funny, like it served me well in spaces, connecting with people, whatever else, but it served me weirdly well around like startups and insurance to go from different verticals and different delivery concepts. I'll have somebody barely start to tell me about a startup now. I'll be like, oh yeah, there's one like that in the US if they're in the UK, or oh yeah, I've seen that over here.
Nice.
Like it's funny, it's kind of weird. what gets you excited about like the tech side of the house? I think because I think of the California Fair Plan, when houses are in fire zones and no one else wants to insure them, it's these like basic coverage. I kind of think about that for the medical malpractice carrier. um for yourself, what excites you about the digital transition, or what are you seeing that you think could be helpful for your corner of the industry?
Well, just that rapid information for one. You know, I've been. I have a stepson, and he recently, got out of high school and he got his first car. And I joke, and it's funny. Even in during my CPCU run, a lot of the studies were based on actual things that were happening. So my wife, she's a correction officer. So if I was going through the law course, I'll go through arbitration. She was actually going through
Oh wow.
arbitration.
Yeah.
It's so a lot of that, like you said, how you pull from
Yep.
different spectrums. I kind of use those examples that also help me understand concepts. When it came to this spectrum, he gets his car, of course, being young, he crashes the car, and
Oof. Sorry, man. Yeah.
but it's funny. I told him, I said, he said, why is our insurance so high? I said, you'll find out shortly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we did.
Yeah.
And totaled the car. And from the time frame that car was totaled, it took maybe a week or so to get everything rectified, and everything was done digital. And it's like, I didn't have a car, obviously, 20 years ago, but I could imagine how the information was received then till now. Like
Yeah.
literally, it's not like you have to go into an office and state your case. It was like send pictures, send reports, here's the claim, and everything was cool. And it's like,
That's
wow,
cool.
this is
Yeah.
I'm not going to plug the insurance company,
Yeah.
Progressive, but they did a great job. They did a
Yeah.
great job in handling the claim. And it's one of those things where you're like, wow, this is where we're going. And even with us, insurance, traditional insurance, especially now, it's very old school. I
Yeah, I bet.
mean, start up 1975, and you figure right now they're doing a lot of predictive analyzing and stuff like that. Our company is kind of, we don't get too much into it because we get like the dump of what the big companies, the big carriers don't
Hmm.
take. But still, with my studies, I've learned other carriers and how they operate. And it's really cool how you can basically pull these loss histories and these claims
Hmm.
from other carriers and just see the history of OBs in this area or neurals in this area.
Hmm.
And you can see how those premiums have been rated. And it's like, wow, I can see based on the cases here and based on the time frame here and how things has changed with technology and risk management,
Hmm.
how things are actually adjusted. So it's certain things where, the CPCU kind of gave the foundation, and it kind of was like the missing pieces to the puzzle. And as soon as I got it, all of this information came. And when it ran past me, I found the way to just pull it. That's why they had a meeting. And it's sad. Again, when I say traditional insurance, we
Yeah.
do work with the parent company.
Yep.
And in the meeting, the CEO says this verbatim. He says, yeah, so we're trying to work on our operating ratio and our combined ratio. And if you don't know it, don't worry about it. And I'm like, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
Yeah.
first of all the CPCUs at one time in the crowd just looked at each other and smiled like, yeah, we know what it is.
That's
And
cool.
it's crazy because, years back, I would have, he would have said that and I would have been one of those people like, yeah. So it's cool when you're in the know and technology kind of brings you all together because anything that you cannot find, in a book, you could just go right online or any information you're looking at for another carrier, another company, another agency, you can go right there and the numbers are right there.
Yeah.
It's clear as day. So that rapid information is very important.
Oh, totally. And I think the CPCU, to me, it sounds like you just get, I'll call it like the whole lattice work, the framework. So they give you like the entire map. And then as these pieces of information are passing by, you know where to plug it in, you know where it makes sense. I'm always really impressed. Whenever I see CPCU, I think just somebody who's dedicated, and takes their craft seriously. Um, I'm lucky. We're working on a CRM AMS, and Precious, a friend out of Texas, signed on. And she's just killer. Like her notes, her ideas, her thoughts are super professional, super dialed in. But yeah, whenever I see CPCU, I'll give CIC a hair right behind it. I feel like CIC is like more like an operator one, which I should probably get. But yeah, that CPCU, I always say that's like a PhD of insurance.
It's it's crazy because so going back into history, 2006, I picked up the first insurance thing that's back there. The I guess like the intro to insurance.
Okay.
In 2006, one of the VPs at the time, I didn't know all of the programs. I guess he kind of referred to RPLU program
Okay.
and said the CPCU, don't worry about that. Like that's not something you should. It's tough.
Yeah.
And the scare, it's like a roller coaster. I haven't got on roller coasters when I was young. So when I got a little older, it was rough for me. Like, oh man, roller coasters look scary.
That's funny.
And when he said that, I kind of was blown back. Like, is it that tough? The reason I got into CPCU in the whole thing is in late 2017, I had a friend, a coworker, and he was on one of them. And it was like really taboo at the office. You see somebody with a blue book and they kind of like.
Hey guys, we had a brief technical/commercial break when you're working from home and the Wi-Fi cuts out, but we're back. Terrance was mentioning how like it can be hard sometimes when you're trying to level up, and especially when you're in a big organization, you start setting yourself apart. Not everybody's always cheering you on. You have to have that internal drive.
Yeah, I think I mentioned one of the VPs at the time. Um, he kind of like scared me off of it then.
Yeah.
And years later, my friend was working on a commercial part of the CPCU courses, and he actually ran a marathon at the same
Oh
time.
wow.
And I said, hey, if he can run a marathon and work on these books, it can't be that bad. And the taboo of having a blue book. Some people thought if you put the blue book on your desk,
Yeah.
that was some sign of, hey, this person's doing it. And a lot of times people just did it just for the hype, and they didn't finish. So it was one point where I heard that people had to actually write a paragraph on why they should take it, basically committing to it as opposed to just getting approved. When I saw my friend do the marathon and take that course, I immediately, after that same meeting we spoke about earlier with the combined ratio, well, it wasn't that time, but it wasn't me. I guess it was a benefits meeting. I just asked my VP at the time. I said, "Hey, I would like to dive in." They knew my eagerness, and
Cool.
without a paragraph, it was like, "Yeah, you're approved."
Oh, it's perfect, man. Like I'm sure you carried yourself in a way that like garnered belief. That's awesome.
And I was very excited. I was very excited. I remember, going through it, and I was just like, we always have these game plans in our mind, like, all right, so I'm going to do this
Yeah.
and this, and by this point, I'm going to be here. And I was like really happy. And it was funny because the people that got through or were trying to get through, they gave me all of these third-party books. And I
Okay.
remember bombing my first one. I bombed my first one by everybody was 60 to 69, and I did it like really fast. So I think about it 2 weeks. I said, "All right, I'm ready." And I was the humble pie. Oh, it tastes real good.
Yeah.
And what's even more interesting is my VP actually proctored the exam,
Mm.
so we did it in the office. So sitting across from him, the same person that helped me get it approved, the first one I bombed. And it was like one of those Jedi moments where it was like, I now see
Yeah.
what I need to do. And it's just not a game. And from there, I was never even close to failing. But that kind of got me into the whole, okay, this is not something that you just can wing through. You have to really apply yourself to get through. And then I realized what it took.
It seems like you have a real natural like resiliency, internal drive, whether it was music or just the idea of just raising the company. Where do you think you kind of got that from? What do you think kind of led to the ability just to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I spoke to some high school kids last week at Talented Unlimited in New York City, and one of the questions was like, what was your energy? What was your fuel? And I just think my upbringing was my fuel. And I know I touched on it at last week, and it was one of those. I never want to be the person that they said, "Oh, yeah, your upbringing was this way," and it's all right that you couldn't do this or you did, because it's basically what, I don't want to say like the stereotype, but people in your position, with statistics, this is what happens to these individuals. So it's one of those things where I was really sharp in school, even, before the passing of my mother, when I was young. So it really didn't have nothing to do with, her condition and her passing. It's just, I just wanted more, I just wanted more. And once I learned something, I was very excited. I was one of those people, when I learned something, you'll see that smile,
cool.
And I'll go all around. I know this. And my daughter's the same way.
That's cool.
And two things. One was just that inner drive to be opposite of what people might perceive based on your upbringing.
Yeah.
And then second was my daughter, because my daughter, when I felt that test, literally she was like, "Okay, Dad, so next time you do it, you got to get 100." I said, "Come on, can I just pass the class?" She was like, "No, you have to get 100." And I did get in the 90 to 100 percentile on that second go round for that test. And, she was interested in insurance. And I said it a few years ago, like she wanted to, once she understood what insurance was, she wanted to insure everything. She wanted to insure dolls. "Hey, Daddy, this doll is over here. Can we insure this?" And I was just laughing because it starts there.
Yeah.
That's how the future continues. If, with all of the stuff that they have in front of them, if they're sitting here worried about what toy can be insured, that might bring that idea moving forward as they get older, and seeing what the road I took to get to where I'm at. That's also something that she can, look at and probably want to emulate.
It's so interesting too. Insurance is such a weird one because it gets you like thinking abstractly. It gets you thinking about like cause and event and potential for loss. You just become paranoid. Even in like my own house, I'm like, should that be still plugged in? We should probably unplug that heater. I don't know. It's such a weird, cool, good industry. But yeah, dude, no, I'm really happy to hear you found a home in it. Yeah, to me, yeah, I candidly struggled in school, and like, it was funny, but I was even told like college wasn't gonna be an option, and we switched guidance counselors, little stuff like that,
Yo, guidance counselors. Oh,
yeah.
man.
And then you just push through, It's similar. Like I had a time at community college where candidly I was supposed to like transfer, and I got like 3 Ds, and my dad was like, "Are we doing this?" He's like, "We can figure out something else if not, but are we doing this?" And like that little challenge was like, all right. So I got out of there, and then I got like a 3.85 in my major at Cal State Fullerton. But when that look into the soul, when family kind of challenges you and helps you, that's really cool that your daughter was able to do that for you. It's really cool for you to be open to her, to allow her to challenge you in that way, in a good way. That's awesome. Yeah.
I think one of the things, the challenge came to this thing we had after every test. I would pick up Krispy Kreme donuts.
Cool.
So I went and explained that I passed. She knows when I came in with the donuts that he passed the test. So it's like as soon as the door opens, "Where's the donuts?" Because she knows. And it was funny because after I failed the first exam, she wrote me a note, and I put it in my wallet. And it was like my good luck charm.
Cool.
Even even when I went for my insurance, for my property and casualty broker's
Yeah.
license, you can't have your wallet. I think I put it in my sneaker
Yeah.
just to have it on me. And it was interesting with that because with the CPCU, it kind of opened up this whole, because I was kind of sheltered in my company, and it's not their fault. It's just how
That's
the
how
setup was.
big companies
They
work.
didn't
You got
allow
your
you to,
job.
they didn't
Yeah.
allow you to like kind of explore. I had to like really take off the blinders.
Yeah.
After I got my associate's degree, I did some music, and I was scared to go back again. And when I mean scared, I didn't want to do it online. I didn't want to do it independently. I'm one of
Yeah.
those guys, put me in a class, I'm going to joke around, I'm going to, rap with the girls, and then I'm going to get my stuff done. I needed that environment, kind of gave me the school environment. When they started doing this independent stuff, I was like, whoa, read what? And I hated reading. Like, I hated
Yeah.
to read. I hate reading. And the CPCU, if the book was 400 pages, I sometimes went through the book 10 times. So it got to the point where the fear of independent study just went away.
Cool.
So I currently finishing up. I have 5 more classes to get my bachelor's in
Heck yeah, dude.
business administration and general management. And it all started with the CPCU. So a lot of times, again, when I say things, some people say things and it's like they're trying to sell it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really one of those people that like, this is life changing, because I went and got my broker's license. I went back to school. I would have just kind of been content with just having the blinders on. And now there's new work. Now there's other things. So people are like, man, you could be a broker. And I'm like, I never even thought about that. They was like, well, you should, this is kind of the same thing. You should go get your broker's license. Now I have a broker's license, but I've never really tapped in. And, I got to probably lean on Matt Struck and Precious and Crew and you and all of you guys to kind of get me acclimated in. But it's one of those things where it started with that program.
Yeah.
And it just kind of opened this world of insurance, and it's kind of cool.
So outside looking in, kind of independent. So is it 400 pages? So it's one book is the whole CPCU coursework? To me, it seemed like different courses. And then like the rough cost, like
yes,
$2,000,
it's
right?
so
yeah.
I think there's, gratefully, the company did reimburse on that, and with the exception of that first exam where I had to take it again, but the exam, but it's changed now, because now the whole thing is digital.
Okay.
But at the time, 2-3 years ago, it was about 8 books.
Okay.
4 finds, and then 4, and then 3 in your line, and then you had to take like one of the other guys, risk management. They had claims. You just had to take one elective.
Yeah.
So it was a total of 8. But some books were thicker than others.
Yeah. The
commercial books is definitely brutal.
Yeah.
Commercial and I guess the personal lines, but I took the commercial line. And 540 was, the beast. The financial one was thin, but it was the most brutal. But
okay.
I didn't have a problem with that one. I just was like, so I'm not going to fail. I took it in about, I got the first 4 in from February to December. I got like the first 5 in through that time frame, and the remaining 3 I got within a couple of months. Cool. I just was like, I'm done with this. Because it kind of overlapped. So that was the cool thing. Once you got the foundation, it kind of was overlapping into just endorsements and things of that nature. And a lot of this stuff, again, was new to me because, doing medical malpractice, it's kind of like claims, specialties, territories, the end. Yep. That's it. It's not, procedures kind of break it down a little bit, but there's not like, we don't, rate on the type of, you know, medical objects they use and instruments we at my company, maybe but with down to the nitty gritty. So when I read about it, it was interesting to me, the whole process and putting everything together. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, to me, it's pretty cool, like 10,000 feet to think about our industry, like risk, money's backing up, life happening. To go back to your son's auto accident, like if we didn't have insurance, 90% population couldn't afford to drive a car because of liability. You know, you share that risk.
Right.
Yeah, we're driving around
Right.
these like missiles. You know, it's like 2,000 pounds. It's like motorized. You know, and thankfully, like there's insurance to make sure everyone's okay. You know, it's pretty cool, pretty funny how it all works. Um, but yeah, man, I just again, kind of from the start, like really appreciate the positivity. You know, appreciate you sharing about CPCU. Um, growing up in New York too, it's funny. I grew up on the edge of LA County. You know, my mom was Mexican, grew up in East LA, and we have a little bit of like an energy. It's funny, like I'm in Orange County now, and sometimes I feel a little bit too wired for my like peers. It's funny having that little city experience, and you know, for me being a latchkey kid a little bit, I always think that's part of the sales thing. But yeah, man, I appreciate you sharing a story, and we'll have to do this again. And I've already had some interest in the CPCU. I feel like it's notching up more and more. I have to hop on that.
It's crazy. When I started the journey, what made it easier to complete was, the love that everybody showed at the
Cool.
time. And I thought about, when I was done, I wanted to pay it forward. And if you go on the Institute's website now, it's like every couple of pages, you'll see all the quote I have on my picture. And it's cool because I remember being outside looking in, like, everything is like, I can't wait to be on that side.
Yeah.
And the masters is interesting because when I actually went to the annual meeting now into risk, everybody was lined up looking at stuff for master programs for risk management. And again, it was the fact that I wasn't able to get to that conversation because I was kind of, yes, you have 24 credits, but you have to have a bachelor's to have those 24 credits, those 8 classes. It's like, wow. Yeah, because one of the things with a few of the companies is you can, the schools, they'll give you 24 credits towards your master's.
Oh, wow.
Just by having a CPCU. So when people say it's equivalent to having the master's, well, it's equivalent to having master credits if you're lining up for a risk management master's degree.
That's
so
cool.
That's something that was in the back of my head. I remember I called the company and not knowing that you had to unlock the bachelor level. I was like, hey, I was interested in your master's program, because I got a CPCU, and it was like, oh yeah, but you have to have a bachelor's. And it was like, oh.
Okay. What'd you do? You went out there and got that bachelor's,
So that's what we're working on. And again, it's like, I don't know if that's in the immediate future, but I want to be in the discussion and say it's attainable now, as opposed to I have more steps. And I'm, still being in my 30s, one of those things is I don't want to get older and feel like, hey, if anything happens with the market changing, with COVID and everything that's going on, a lot of companies have been, downsizing and things of that nature. I never want to feel like, even with a CPCU, I'm out the loop. And now it's like I have to do these things, or it's something that they're forcing me to do. I want to already have it. So when I do go out there, it's something that, we won't even have to have this discussion because I already have it. So it's kind of like a lot of people have the degrees, go for the CPCU. I went for the CPCU. Yeah. Now I'm going back to get the degrees and stuff. And CIC was on my radar. RPLU was on my radar. But I was like, I don't want to do these things, knock them out, and still not have my bachelor's and do all of these things and still have to have that. So that's the reason why I'm back in. And I credit that. And, Tony, the whole crew. There's so many people that I watched from afar. I remember searching how to get through a CPCU, and an insurance nerd website popped up,
Cool.
and I
Yeah.
kind of word for word, the 8 steps. I kind of followed that like the insurance Bible, and I was like, it was cool to hear about Tony and to actually be like Tony's friend. It's
Yeah.
like one of those things where, musically people say it's cool to, you know these people. I know a few people in the business, and it's cool to have listen to their music and then meet
Yeah.
them and they can call you your friend. It's just, and that's how it's funny because I use the same, branding tactics from music independently and brought it right over to insurance. So it was like, at this point, my company is, even though I have this position, I'm trying to brand myself to the world where they can see, this is the first African American who picked up a CPCU in this company.
Cool.
You know what I'm saying? This is the person who had that background, who is still a life learner, a goal achiever. And I'm not going to say I'm like this excellent, student, but I
Yeah.
do, I do take pride in wanting to learn more, and I'm very sociable. So I'm just wanted to use these things and use my story that it can help others. So I do
Yeah, that's
appreciate
cool.
time to talk and tell that.
Oh, totally. And it's cool too. That sounds like the CPCU was kind of like I'll call it like a supercharger. Like you almost like get that. Now you got the confidence. You're like, well, sure, I'll go knock out the bachelor's. I'll go get a master's of risk management. It seems like it kind of like unlocked you in a way. Especially like if somebody told you it wasn't something to chase before. You're like, no, I'm interested. I'm gonna go do it. That's really awesome. Yeah. But yeah,
And
man.
it's one of those things, like you said, when you get into that, that next stage, there's just so much information. And now I'm, even with 20 in, I'm still new to a lot of things. And when people, talk about it, I
Hmm.
go to do the research. So I'm at that stage. I'm still at a learning stage for the insurance, world industry as a whole. And it's really cool because it's kind of refreshing. So even though you have that, a lot of people put years and stuff behind their back, and they just feel like they're so sophisticated in their position that they're not able to learn more. Yeah, I did those years, but I'm like a fresh fish out of the pond kind of vibe, and it's kind of cool.
Isn't it crazy though? I feel like that's one of the cool things about the industry. Like the more you learn, the more you know. You're like, I know nothing. Like the further you get into it, the further you're just like, I'm lost.
Right,
No clue what I'm doing.
right.
Let's figure this out.
that's that's correct.
The broker side's funny like that because you just, especially when you're small and new, like you'll work on whatever and people throw the weird stuff at you. You get all like the off the wall, small, gritty things because like the other stuff's a little bit gobbled up. So yeah.
What is your weirdest? Here's something. What was your first uh eye opener experience on that side? I'm still kind of really new on that side, but I'm just
Yeah.
curious to everybody and how they operate.
The first thing that kind of hurt and kind of made me realize this was serious was a water pan leak not being covered at my friend's house from the second floor. The carrier claimed it should have been maintenance. And like single dad, you know, lady had left him somewhat recently, good friend of mine, not a lot of money on hand, sales guy. It was just a bummer. And it just kind of made me realize wrong carriers, wrong coverage, it can hurt and it could stink and it could really affect somebody's pocket. And on the flip of that, my parents had a rental property. It was my grandparents' house. They had passed. They just took it over to a rental property. It was very fortunate. I'm glad I was able to talk them into that. um, and Safeco, you said Progressive took care of the claim well. I was shouted out. Was really cool about the water claim. They could have probably been, weaseled out of it potentially. We have a lot of pinhole leaks down here in Southern California. Um, so, you know, one was covered, one wasn't, and it just shows you really got to pay attention to the carriers and the coverage. And it can feel really good when insurance does what it's supposed to do, and it can really stink, especially if you're on the sales side when something doesn't get taken care of. um, yeah, I don't hide from my phone, you know, like I want to make sure I'm taking care of stuff and taking care of people, and knock on wood, haven't had too many bad ones to deal with yet, but that's what keeps you up and you want to write good business, you know?
Right. I think like I've been on the carrier side long enough to where we used to work with the doctors, and now it's shifted to brokers. And what was funny about it is a lot of people are scared of brokers. And, I move like a broker.
I can see that.
So, and the thing is, because a lot of the time for the past 3 years, I was studying. So you would not get the satisfaction of me not doing something and say, oh, it's because he was studying, we
Right.
couldn't get the service. So what happened was when somebody sends me an email, when somebody has a question, I immediately answer it. And if you look on my LinkedIn, you can see the brokers that say, he's very, like, somebody will like email me at 11:49 p.m., 12:01 a.m. I'm going to respond. If I'm going to respond. And they're like, wow, you just work. No, because I just don't want to do it in the morning.
That's
I
funny.
just don't want to have, they don't know, but it's just like I'm doing so much that I don't want to be overwhelmed. So if I can knock it out right now, if it's something, I literally was walking, and as I was walking, a broker called, and I saw the voicemail on my email. I called the broker back as I was walking and discussing the whole thing. And it's like, so I kind of put, it's bad because now everybody runs to Terrance because, brokers is like, hey, Terrance is going to get us the answer. They're not even going to their underwriter now. They're just going to Terrance. Like, Terrance is our underwriter. I
got a reputation,
we'll CC our underwriter, but Terrance is going to actually get, and it's funny because just think about it. When you call like for cable, or you call for like, whatever, you want the answer right there. You don't want to wait till someone say, a lot of times they'll say, oh, office hours are closed. So you have to call tomorrow back at 8. At that time, it'll be something serious. You want that answer now.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait till 8 o'clock, because 8 o'clock, you're going to be pissed off from that point till 8 o'clock. So it's one of those things where in the same breath, I'm going to give the person, if I can, the answer then and there. So it's kind of building up my rep.
Cool.
And plus it could get me from not having a bunch of, because that's one of many brokers. So if 10 brokers ask 10 different questions, it's normally never one question, one answer. It's a series of questions. So if I can knock them out, in a timely manner, and then if you're going to send something at 10:50 or something like that, clearly you're still up. I'm going to just email you right back. And they're like, oh, and it's funny. I think they do it purposely. And they laugh at me when they get the response, like, oh, man, he's a stickler. He's going to just respond back. I said, why not? You sent it at 10:50.
It's the hustle mindset, I heard Mark Cuban, if he likes a deal, like he reads all his own emails, he'll email him back right away. This guy, Jason Calacanis, I like on the startup stuff, he was talking about how one startup meeting, the guy showed up from like this big VC firm after getting hit on his bicycle. The guy was like on like pain relievers, just trying to stay awake in the meeting. But like this rich, powerful guy, muscled his way to the meeting anyways. Like it's just, people are wired to make something happen, get things done,
But you just remember, if you get instant service, digitally, you expect the same. Before it was one of those things where everybody has a phone. I always tell my wife, it's like, hey, you saw that response. You saw my text. You can't say you didn't see it for the whole day. And you're on your phone all the time. So it's one of those things, if you have a phone and your business is on it, to now sit there and do it, the next day, something very simple. Am I covered for this? Yes. Am I covered for this? Tomorrow at 12 p.m.? Yes. Some people, you don't know at that point, the severity of, that answer. And me being a customer as well, I want that rapid response. And we live in a world with everything rapid. You see, we had a problem with the technology. We rapidly got back online. It wasn't one of those things where you say, all right, Terrance, next week, same bat time, same bat channel, we're going to try again. no, this is not 2002. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with you want that same type of service. And I've learned by, really paying attention that, like you said, the early bird catches the worm. If you're on it, I didn't think about it like Mark Cuban and all of them. I just said, I don't want to just deal with all of this stuff. I want to read my book and kind of be at peace.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, I didn't know that I was just, because now that's how I move. For the last 3 years, that's how I did fast service, but now this is just a different type of beast. And it's just like, you can't even breathe. If I had the phone and I could see it right now, I would be responding right now. Just, and it's just nice because people really, they're really happy, especially the
Yeah.
brokers, when you can give them that response in a timely manner.
Well, my dad and I would talk about it because I did office relocations before I got into insurance, and you're dealing with some ego, beat these like big real estate guys and whatever else, and just never wanted to like seem too important or brush people off or be like, okay, in 3 weeks or whatever. You never want to seem too big, like I think it's that like it's a sign of respect too, to be on top of things. Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, man, maybe we'll jump today, but I'll start looking into CPCU a little bit more. And I
Oh,
appreciate you sharing some of the story, man. You're killing it.
yeah, I mean, I would like to, shout out like a lot of the chapters,
Yeah.
North New Jersey chapter, the, Central New Jersey chapter, the Dallas chapter, just the CPCU society as a whole. And again, this is not this is not paid advertisement, but I do say it's like a family. Definitely for the people out in Texas, you see, I knew some of these, this one particular person. I haven't known this person for 3 years, but when there was a problem and it needed assistance, I was there, and it's because of that glow and that energy that you get, and this is like a family. So with this family, if anything happens, you want to be there for your family, just as if something happened with you. And when I did that, it's funny because I made a donation for one of our members out in Texas, and uh, did I bet on the Knicks? I bet on Golden State in Golden State versus, I forgot who they versed. They were down like 14 points, and I was like, you know what? Why not? And I won like $250 off like $10 or something cheap, and it was like, I don't know if it's kind of like one of those things where you had just good karma.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes, I think I even posted it like without going into detail. It was like, I won with that Golden State. And it was because of that kindness. And in a society, it's kind of cool because you meet all of these people from different, backgrounds, colors and ethnicities, cultures, and everybody are just all a bunch of insurance nerds, and you just
cool.
sit back and you have that one common thing, and it's just like insurance.
Yeah.
And I never thought that there was so many like-minded individuals out there, and all of the, not only the CPC, the RPLU, the Plus family. There's so many organizations that's out there. Even the I don't want to say it wrong, but the NAIC.
Yep. Yeah,
But the NAIAA, the National African American one, there's so many that and I never knew that. I was like, oh wow, this is something too. Oh, they got Black insurance leaders. They got this and 40 under 40, and you got Rob over here with this InsurTech stuff. It's like so many things that's out there, and it's like it's like worlds within it. And it's really cool because, like you said, you just tap into a new realm of things and you learn a lot too. And that's all. If there's a question posed, you could put it out there to the universe, and somebody in the insurance world will come back to you and just say, this is the answer. And that's kind of cool.
You're in the insurance nerd Slack. That's pretty amazing component.
You know
of
what?
that.
I was in there. I'm not active.
Okay. Yeah. I use that for like my little
but
brain dump.
I did but I did hook someone up with Gallagher.
Okay.
They was looking for a particular coverage, and I was like, while I don't do it, I know the head person over here, and
Yeah.
I'll give you their information. And that was one of those things where that worked, and it was on Slack. So I got that out of there, and I credit Tony
Mm-hmm.
because Tony was one of those people when I first started. He sat with me, and I just had some questions with regards to my next move, industry wise, and he was like very, very helpful and like sat with me for like an hour
Oh
before
wow.
our meeting. And with it again, this is off the arm, nothing that came with a fee. And when you get stuff like that, you have to pay it for it. You have to like express the love. And I'm not, listen, I love music. You see, I love my sports. I have horrible teams, but I love them. And but it's like this is my. I, it was always music and kind of everything else.
Yeah.
I never thought in 2021 I'll have like family, you know, personal music and insurance. I never thought that insurance would be one of the tier,
It
importance
is
of
weird.
what makes
Yeah.
Terrance. It's weird.
I'm with you, dude. Yeah, I'm pretty well known in this stuff, and it's very strange and interesting and fun, and I feel fortunate, and it's a helpful thing. I always say there's very few things where like you can be ambitious and genuinely help people. Like candidly on the broker side, I'm not there yet, but you can make really good money and you're also doing a genuine good if you're doing your job right. I think it's cool. I don't know if that's
I,
a lot
I,
of industries.
yeah, I think that's one of my short-term goals to like really crack into the brokers and just lean into your guys and just see what I'm not. I don't know how to start. Like how to start. Like I don't know. Like what do you do? Like hey, I'm a broker now. What's the next step? I never digged into the question because I know if I dig too deep, it's gonna make me go in. So I'm trying to like avoid it
Yeah,
because I
right.
know I don't want to put it on my plate right now. But I'm just curious
Oh,
to what's the next step.
tell you what, I will say, I'll talk in hypotheticals right now, if anyone's made it. Um, so for salespeople to be successful, you need like deal flow, and contacts. You need a domain expertise, and a lot of people, businesses I've seen really pop. Usually, there's some sort of shift in dynamics, whether it's new technology or a new market or a growing part of the market that you serve. Usually, those help level set you, and then you maintain. Because a lot of times when you're in established industries like insurance, it's really hard to break in. Like, business partner and I are chasing, auto garages um, and they usually have insurance in place, so it's hard to pry out the incumbent. But if you find a growth market or new dynamic, or if there's a CPA or a lawyer who can hand you business all day long, while they're working on their deals, it's really helpful. But the hard thing about insurance is a lot of people can help us, but we can't always return the help. Like a lot of people feed us deals, but it'll be one off. So you have to win with that amazing service, with that domain knowledge, with being available, being somebody who's upbeat. My dad would always say people want to work with happy, successful people. And everyone's got their demons. You got to go talk to your buddies. You got to find a way to debrief. I've been trying to run a lot during COVID just to get outside and see other people.
Right.
um, so when you're having a bad day, like it's kind of on you to figure out how to right yourself and right your ship and get back in the game. But it's a lot of stuff you talked about, and the small things like licensing, getting bonded, having your errors and emissions insurance, websites and all that. It's pretty easy. Selfishly, I'll plug Capped IMS. We built our own little agency management system, CRM, we're working out of. Technology is a
Nice.
part of it too. You got to get your carrier appointments. When you're new and you don't have access to anything, you got to go through clusters and you lose a couple points and deals are kind of slow. But they do give you access, and a lot of times they're like an extra set of eyes on what you're working on too. Um, and it's a snowball. In sales, you survive your first year, become known in 2 to 3 years, and become the person if you can make it to 5. But there's a reason why you see people switching sales jobs a lot, because if the market's not there and if you don't have the right thing, it's hard to force it. So timing, potential, opportunity, domain knowledge, a little bit of luck, you know,
So
and a lot of stick to
so you're
itiveness.
basically telling me that I need to go to Brett to get everything in order.
Yeah. Uh, Shoulder to cry on,
Right.
talk to, all the above, have a beer with.
A support system, right.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of that. We had something called broker brews, which is just like hanging out with sales guys and or girls, and a lot of it's just going through the war with each other and sharing knowledge where we can, sharing helpful contacts where we can. It's all that old wisdom of 10 years to build a good reputation, 10 seconds to lose it. You gotta stay on
Right.
top of your stuff. Yeah, always happy to help though. Yeah, and I think the side of the house you guys are on is pretty cool too.
I, I think you're the first person. I don't think I've said this publicly, but in the ideal world, my perfect job would be to write concerts,
Yeah,
venues
that'd be cool.
for me. You know, like you know, uh, Kanye had that thing a few years ago where he went to the hospital
Oh wow.
and canceled all of those shows because he had like a mental breakdown or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, imagine the claim that came in for that, just for the production of it. It's something that interests me, obviously, because I've done some shows in my lifetime where I performed at the circus,
That's
which is
cool.
kind of cool. When
Yeah.
I was a little young, I performed at the circus. Not with the animals. The animals wasn't there yet, but I performed in the ring. And I always thought that it would be cool to write. That would be like the perfect balance of music and entertainment, even
Yeah.
sports, and then writing that. So even if I could volunteer, I would
Right.
volunteer and just assist. So anybody in the insurance world, if you have something like that, I will assist my time after September to just be an intern in that and just learn that, because that'll just like be the ultimate thing, where you can just kind of see, how that world is, because there's so many things, that goes into the event, and there's so many risks involved,
Yeah. No.
especially with I remember I saw Kevin Hart, and Kevin Hart had those. He was like, he said something about the flames, and every time he hit it, the flames would shoot up.
That's funny.
Some people do so many crazy things. It's like, how do they insure this?
No, it's a real thing. Like event insurance is a big marketplace. I forget. It's like K&K or something like that, but there's like a top event insurance company in the nation. But yeah, it's legit. Like I haven't done it. I had to buy some for like wedding insurance. That was my only experience with event insurance.
So that's
That's the really
something.
cool thing about the industry. Anything you're interested in needs insurance one
Yeah,
way or another, probably.
there's insurance for everything.
Yeah.
I remember, just learning about Tina Turner, and it was like
Okay.
she insured her legs, with
Yeah.
like Lloyd's of London. Like, how do you insure your legs? I
That's
mean,
so funny.
legendary legs.
Yeah. Well, even
It's
Wimbledon
crazy.
had pandemic insurance and they got paid out. Yeah.
That's sick. But you know what? People that's not an insurance. It's a snooze until they have a claim,
Right. Exactly.
and then when they have the claim, they're like, either thank God I know somebody that knows insurance, or we had that experience a few years back. We missed our boat
Mm.
for the cruise,
Yeah.
so my stepson, he didn't have his passport, so he
Oh,
had to go
shoot.
home. But if you get on the boat, you can go. But if you don't, you can't go into another country, obviously, without a passport. And we missed the boat, and we had to fly into Bahamas,
Oh,
and
wow.
we had traveler's insurance. And because of that, they were able to pay for the flight, pay for everything, and we were covered. And my wife got it. And I'm like, see, insurance worked out, because had you not had insurance,
That's funny.
we would have been messed up.
That's
And
funny.
it just shows that in any aspect of your life, insurance comes into play.
It's just like a leveler, it's just nice. Life's going to want to do this. And if you're set up properly, it's just going to kind of help it be a little bit more like this.
Yeah, but I wish people would just Another perfect thing, I told Tony I'll do this. I haven't sat down with it, but I'm going to find a cool way to explain insurance musically.
Oh wow, yeah.
Just
yeah.
I don't know if I want to go. I see my daughter; they do a lot of stuff with the kids. There was two things. Again, these are fresh off the press.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something with Tony and use his character as a children's book.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And like the typical 3 kids go through different scenarios and explain insurance on that level.
Yeah.
And he will be the,
Superhero.
his whole, you got to be easy on the copyright of that, but we'll find a way. How
I think
we can do that with the cape and everything.
Protected.
Right. So that, and as far as musically, maybe the adult version for people of our age, concepts we can understand at level, and the kids to explain it to them on their level, like little terms and stuff, but give them a nice understanding of insurance.
Well,
I have to do something with music.
What if you do it like storytelling? The different songs could be different type of claims, cases, one from the agent's view, one from the insured's view, stuff like that.
Yes, I have it in me.
Yeah.
That might be right after school. I've been trying to figure out, everything is kind of like you said, a debrief. If it's not my game, I don't play the game a lot, but I'm starting to play it enough because I'm back in school. So I play it because it helps me a little bit. And music, I haven't recorded in like 4 years, but it's still, I listen to instrumentals to study as well. So sometimes, passes my head. And I'm just trying to find a way to bring it all together. And those are kind of like, those are the 3 things. But, maybe a story telling, that's a great idea as well.
It'll be fun. No, dude, I look forward to it, man. I'll definitely be following the career and, keeping on the projects.
But it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I believe it.
Within the next 2 years, definitely going to happen,
No.
And that's I want to do something where it's like my legacy in insurance. I might not have the technical aspect together where I can sit here and shoot the breeze with a lot of people. That's going to take me about 5 to 10 years.
You're doing pretty good, though. I think I wouldn't be too hard on yourself on that. And from what you've told me so far, I wouldn't really bet against you in anything. You put your mind to something and I feel like you deliver,
But I do want to do the music thing and bring it all together. I think that'll be my legacy on the professional side.
That'd be cool. I appreciate it, dude. But we'll record again. Maybe we'll jump today, but we'll throw down on these one more time. And dude, I appreciate you sharing the story.
Appreciate you having me, Greg.
Absolutely. Later, Terrance. Later, guys.
Peace.